Thursday slates tend to be tiny, but that's not the case here. We have 8 games to discuss, and we couldn't ask for a better ledger of matchups. We have plenty to discuss when examining this card. Core plays Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, PG, SG. OKC, $10,700 DraftKings. $11,400 FanDuel SGA has been absurd this season, averaging 54 DraftKings points per game.
He's also established a 40-point floor and could have a career night against San Antonio. The Spurs sit 26th in total defense while surrendering the most fantasy points to opposing guards.
Gilgeous has dropped 57 and 61 DK points in their 2 matchups this year. DeJounte Murray, PG. ATL, $9,400 DraftKings, $8,800 FanDuel. Murray will be a regular in this article until he's $10,000 on both sides. What's bumped his value so much is the absence of Trae Young, allowing DeJounte to take over this offense.
This guy flirted with triple-double averages in that role in the past and is averaging nearly 50 DK points per game with Young out this year. Brooklyn is far from a bad matchup, ranked 24th in total defense over the last 2 months.
That was on display when DeJounte had at least 44 DK points in both of their matchups. Chet Holmgren, PFC. OKC, $7,900 DraftKings, $8,200 FanDuel. It's hard to believe how good this rookie has looked this season.
Holmgren is one of the best defenders in the NBA, averaging 38 DraftKings points per game. He's also showcased a 60-point ceiling numerous times, and one of those could be in play against San Antonio.
The Spurs sit 24th in defensive efficiency and 26th in points allowed while surrendering the 5th most fantasy points to opposing big men. Cash game considerations: Giannis Antetokounmpo, PFC, Mil, $11,300 DraftKings, $11,700 FanDuel. The Bucks are finally turning their season around, mainly due to Giannis's play.
The Greek Freak has averaged over 60 DraftKings points per game over the last 2 months, establishing a 50-point floor in that span. That's scary for Charlotte, sitting last in defensive efficiency ratings. They're also surrendering the most fantasy points to opposing forwards, and Giannis should be locked into 50 fantasy points, even in a blowout.
Kevin Durant, SF, PF. PHX, $9,700 DraftKings, $9,600 FanDuel. KD isn't my favorite option, but there are not many better bets for 40 fantasy points from a 4-figure player. The Slim Reaper has scored at least 35 DraftKings points in all but 1 game this season, generating a 49-point average.
The matchup with Houston is no easy task, but Durant has dropped 61 and 74 DK points in his 2 meetings with the Rockets this year. Bogdan Bogdanović, SG, ATL, $6,400 DraftKings, $6,600 FanDuel. It's hard to understand why Bogey isn't above $7,000 on both sites.
This winger was already finding his form in the second half and should be the second option in this offense now that Young is injured. Bogdan has scored at least 27 DK points in 9 of his 10 starts this year and has averaged over 35 DK points per game when Young has been out over the last 2 years.
That's no surprise with the bump in usage, and we love that Brooklyn posts a 26th OPRK against opposing shooting guards. GPP targets Isaiah Hartenstein, PFC, NYK, $6,000 DraftKings, $6,100 FanDuel. Hartenstein has been battling an Achilles issue over the last 2 weeks, but he's creeping to a full workload.
The big man played 27 minutes in his most recent outing and needs to play a massive role with Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson both injured. Before Hartenstein's injury, he was averaging 37 DK points per game across his previous 17 fixtures.
That's ridiculous for a $6,000 player, and we don't expect this small Golden State team to slow him down, totaling a 23rd OPRK against opposing big men. Trey Mann, PG, SG, Char, $5,400 DraftKings, $6,100 FanDuel. Mann has taken a step back over the last week, but we still think he's a good GPP option as the starting point guard in Charlotte.
He's been given this role due to the LaMelo Ball injury, scoring at least 29 DraftKings points in 5 of his 7 starts. He's establishing himself as this team's primary ball handler and should continue his resurgence against a Milwaukee team that owns a 24th OPRK against opposing guards.
Dennis Schroeder, PG, BKN, $5,200 DraftKings, $5,200 FanDuel. Schroeder was having a bounce-back season in Toronto before getting traded, but it looks like the Nets want him to start at point guard from here on out. Not only is Cam Thomas injured, but Ben Simmons can't handle more than 20 minutes a night.
That should guarantee Schroeder 30 minutes, and this guy averages over 30 DK points per game in that expanded role. The matchup is the best part because Atlanta allows the second most points in the NBA.
Value plays Clint Capela, C. ATL, $5,300 DraftKings, $6,000 FanDuel. Capela had his minutes limited in his return from an injury, but he's creeping closer to 30 minutes. This guy was closer to $7,000 in that role earlier in the year and could be asked to do even more with Okongwu injured as well.
We saw Cap collect 33 DraftKings points across 25 minutes in his most recent outing and could get to 40 DK points in a 30-minute role. In his 2 matchups with the Nets, CC is averaging 35 fantasy points per game. Trey Jones, PG, SAS, $5,000 DraftKings, $5,700 FanDuel. This $5,000 price tag on DraftKings is mind-blowing.
Jones has taken over as the starting point guard in San Antonio, averaging 30 DK points per game in this newfound role. That's over a month of consistency, and it also comes with a 25-point floor. OKC is a challenging matchup, but Jones had 29 and 33 DK points in their last 2 matchups.
Advantageous pricing. Walker Kessler, C. UTA, $5,100 DraftKings, $6,400 FanDuel. Brook Lopez, C. Mill, $5,700 DraftKings, $6,500 FanDuel. Chris Paul, PG, GSW, $5,500 DraftKings, $6,300 FanDuel. Victor Wembanyama, PF, C. SAS, $10,100 DraftKings, $11,600 FanDuel. Josh Giddey, PG, SG, OKC, $5,400 DraftKings, $6,700 FanDuel. Jeremy Sokin, PG, SF, SAS, $5,100 DraftKings, $6,100 FanDuel. Zach Collins, PF, C. SAS, $4,400 DraftKings, $6,200 FanDuel. Keldon Johnson, SF, PF, SAS, $4,900 DraftKings, $6,000 FanDuel. Fred VanVleet, PG, SG, WHO, $6,600 DraftKings, $7,700 FanDuel. Amen Thompson, PG, SG, WHO, $5,900 DraftKings, $7,500 FanDuel.